gentlemen, welcome the candidates for the President of the United States. All right, on stage we have Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, Ohio Governor John Kasich, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, retired neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, businessman Donald Trump, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. All right, today's rules are simple. Up to 60 seconds for each answer or 30 seconds for each follow-up response. And a candidate, if they go over the allotted time, they will hear, thank you. All right, we have a good crowd here tonight. And while we expect the audience to be enthusiastic and responsive, I also want you to be respectful of the candidates and keep it somewhere between a library and an FSU Florida game. All right, let's get started. Immigration is a key issue in this state and for all voters nationwide. So that's where we begin. Mr. Trump, you called for a deportation force to remove the 11 million undocumented immigrants from the United States. You've also promised to let what you call the good ones come back in. Your words, the good ones, after they had been deported. Senator Cruz would not allow them to come back in. He says that's the biggest difference between the two of you. He calls your plan amnesty, is it? Let's
First
give
of all,
answers at this time.
Oh, I will go.
All right, big one. All right.
First of all, he was in charge of amnesty. He was the leader. You can ask Marco, because they've been debating this every debate they've had. As far as coming back in, number one, you wouldn't even be talking. And you wouldn't have asked that as the first question if it weren't for me when I talked about illegal immigration. It wouldn't even be a big subject. But we either have a country or we don't have a country. We have at least 11 million people in this country that came in illegally. They have to come back legally. They have to come back through a process. And it may not be a very quick process, but I think that's very fair, and it's fine. They're going to get in line with other people. The best of them will come back, but they're going to come back through a process.
Senator Cruz, what's wrong with letting Mr. Trump, what he calls the good ones, come back to the United States?
You know, the people that get forgotten about this debate over immigration are the hardworking men and women of this country. Our millions of Americans are losing their jobs. Millions of legal immigrants who are losing their jobs, seeing their wages driven down. You know, in the past couple of weeks, the Wall Street Journal had a very interesting article about the state of Arizona. Arizona put a very tough law on illegal immigration, and the result was illegal immigrants fled the state. Some of the business owners complained that the wages they had paid the workers went up, and their perspective was that was a bad thing. But what the state of Arizona sees in dollars they're spending on welfare and prisons, education, all of those have dropped by hundreds of millions of dollars. The Americans, for that matter, the legal immigrants who are in Arizona are seeing unemployment drop and their wages rise. That's who we need to be fighting for, and that's what I was standing for as president.
Mr. Trump, do you want to respond to that?
Well, I'm very glad that Ted mentioned Arizona, because probably the toughest man on the borders is Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And 2 days ago, he totally endorsed me. So, thank you.
Senator Rubio, Mr. Trump has said that the Mexicans are sending over illegals. The USA government is stupid and we are being bamboozled. Is that an adequate answer to the question of illegal immigration?
Let me set the record straight on a couple of things. The evidence is now clear that people are not coming across the border from Mexico. They're coming across the border from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. Those countries are the source of people that are coming now in its majority. I also believe we need a fence. The problem is that if El Chapo decides to dig under the fence, we need a solution for that too. And that's why we need an e-verify system. We need an entry-exit tracking system and all other sorts of things to prevent illegal immigration. But I agree with what Governor Kasich said once. People are frustrated. It's the most generous country in the world, and we feel like we're being taken advantage of. There's 1 million people a year who legally immigrate to the United States, and people feel like we're being taken advantage of. We feel like despite our generosity, we are being taken advantage of. And let me tell you, it never gets talked about in these debates. The people who call my office, who have been waiting 14 years to get here illegally, and the process just isn't going through. They've paid their fees, they've hired a lawyer, and they still can't get in. And they're wondering maybe if they should just come illegally. And so these are the important issues, and we should address it. It's a serious problem that needs to be addressed. And otherwise, we're going to keep talking about it for 30 years like we have for the last 30.
Governor Kasich, the Republican nominee, will likely face off against Hillary Clinton. She will say that you support the rich while she supports the middle class, and that she wants to move the country forward while Republicans don't. If you're the nominee, how will you answer that and take Hillary on?
Well, let's start off with my father being a mailman. So I understand the concerns of all the folks across this country, some of whom have trouble, making ends meet. But I think she will come in and be okay. The nominee of this party, if they're going to win, has got to come at it in a big way, which is pro-growth, which is balancing budgets. I was the chairman of the budget committee and the lead architect last time it happened in Washington. And when we did it, we had great economic growth. We cut taxes, we had a big surplus. Economic growth is the key. Economic growth is the key to everything. Once you have economic growth, it's important that we reach out to people who live in the shadows, the people who don't seem to think that they ever get a fair deal. That includes people in our minority communities, that includes people who don't feel like they have a chance to move up. America is a miracle country, and we have to restore the sense that the miracle will apply to you, each and every one of you here tonight. Lift everybody, unite everybody, and build a stronger United States of America, and it can be and will be done.
Secretary Clinton, in July, New Hampshire, you told the crowd you take a back seat to no one when it comes to progressive values. Last month in Ohio, you say you pled guilty to being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No.
No, I think like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience. I don't take a back seat to anyone when it comes to progressive experience and progressive commitment. When I left law school, my first job was with the Children's Defense Fund. For all the years since, I've been focused on how we're going to unstack the deck and make it possible for more people to have the experience I had and to be able to come from a grandfather as a factory person and a small business person. And I am asking the people of America to elect me as president.
Senator Paul, can you explain to me and for the people out there what is a libertarian and how are they different from a Republican or a Democrat?
Well, in sort of general terms, Republicans have been very good with your personal privacy, your professional liberty, but Democrats have been very good with economic liberty, and they want all kinds of rules in business that interfere with the marketplace. Government on the Republican side says the government wants to collect your phone records, demolish what you do at your home. Libertarians say, you know what? You want to leave you alone no matter what, whether it's your home or your private life, or business or your private life.
Dr. Carson, you have said that Obamacare should be replaced before it's repealed. How and why?
You have to replace it with something that makes sense. I propose a health empowerment account system. Everybody gets a health empowerment account the day they are born. They keep it until they die. They pass it on. We pay for it with the same dollars that we pay for traditional health care with. Recognizing that we spend twice as much as many countries per capita and health care and don't have as such access. We give people the ability to shift their money within their health empowerment account so that each family basically becomes its own insurance company without a middleman. That saves you an awful lot of amount of money, and that will lower the cost of your catastrophic insurance tremendously, because the only thing coming out of that is catastrophic health care.
We have a question on education. Senator Sanders, I'll continue with you. You propose free college tuition.
No, I did not propose free college tuition. I proposed free tuition at public universities. Yes, I did.
So, under your plan, potentially millions of students who cannot truly afford college would be getting federal subsidies. Is that right?
No. Look, this is what I believe. This is year 2016. 50 years ago, a high school degree got you a good job in the economy. Today, in many respects, a college degree is equivalent to a high school degree. We have to go beyond 1st through 12th grade to talk about public education. So I do believe we should make public colleges and universities tuition free, and I do not believe we should punish millions of young and not so young people who, with outrageous levels of student debt. But all of our people, in my view, regardless of income, should have the right to get a higher education. I want children in the 3rd grade to know that any income, my parents didn't go to college, they didn't have good income. I want every kid to know that if you do your schoolwork and study hard, yes, you will be able to get a college education.
We'll continue with another question on education. Senator Rubio, why is Governor Bush wrong on Common Core?
Well, first off, I too believe in curricular reform. It is critically important in the 21st century. We do need curricular reform, and it should happen at the state and local level. This is where educational policy belongs, because if a parent has a problem with the school board, it can go to the school and say that it has a problem with it. If they have a problem with what's being taught, they can go and they can have it fixed. The Department of Education is like a federal agency, and they'll never be satisfied. And so that's the problem with Common Core. They will stop at nothing with it being a suggestion. They will turn it into a mandate. In fact, what they will begin to say is that local communities, you will not get federal money unless you switch to Common Core, and that's what they want you to do. And they will use Common Core or any other requirement that exists nationally, and they'll force it down the throats of our people in our states.
Woo! Senator Cruz, this question is from Tyler, an employee of a seafood restaurant in which you visited last year. He asks, lobsters are moving to colder waters due to climate change. You voted against the National Endowment for the Oceans, which is designed to protect coastal economies like this one. My question is, do you deny the existence of climate change?
For the past 30 years, political liberals and scientists have pushed the theory of global cooling. The solution to the problem was presented by the same people: massive governmental control of the economy, the energy sector, and every aspect of our lives. The theory was proven eventually wrong. However, the same political liberals and scientists came up with a different theory: global warming. The same solution as before was presented: massive governmental control of the energy sector and every aspect of our lives. Soon after global warming, the theory was proven wrong, and a new theory came up: climate change. The same solution to increase governmental control of the economy, the energy sector, and every aspect of our lives was presented. However, it cannot be disproven. The climate is always changing, no matter where in the world you look. Therefore, it can never be proven invalid. When we see the same solution presented by the government for all different types of problems, we wonder if there are actually problems, or if it's just an excuse for bad governments to take control of what is rightfully ours.
The question is, how do we keep America safe from terrorism? Trump says we ought to close the internet thing. Senator Paul, what does he mean by that? Like North Korea or like they do in China?
Well, Rubio says we should collect all Americans' records all the time. The Constitution says otherwise. I think they're both wrong. I think we defeat terrorism by showing them that we do not fear them. I think if we ban certain religions, we censor the internet, I think at that point the terrorists have won. Regime change hasn't won. Toppling secular dictators in the Middle East has only led to chaos and the rise of radical Islam. I think we need to defeat terrorism. I think if we are truly sincere about defeating terrorism, we need to quit arming the allies of ISIS. If we want to defeat terrorism, the boots on the ground need to be Arab boots on the ground. As Commander-in-Chief, I will do whatever it takes to defend America. But in defending America, we cannot lose what America stands for.
Mr. Trump, what are your views on the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacists?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. I've been doing it now for 2 weeks. You're probably about the 18th person that's asked me the question. It was very clear. That question was also talked about in the form of groups. Groups. I want to know, which groups are you talking about? You have to tell me which groups. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow. And by the way, if you look on my Twitter account, almost immediately after the program, they were disavowed again. You know, it's amazing. When I put something on Twitter, everybody picks it up, goes all over the place. But when I did this one, nobody ever picks it up. Take a look at my Twitter account.
Secretary Clinton, is Bernie Sanders tough enough on guns?
Not at all. I think that we have to look at the fact that we lose 90 people a day from gun violence. This has gone on too long. And it's time the entire country stood up against NRA. The majority of our country supports background checks, and even the majority of gun owners do. Senator Sanders did vote 5 times against the Brady bill. Since it was passed, more than 2 million prohibited purchases have been prevented. He also did vote, as he said, for this immunity provision. I voted against it. I was in the Senate at the same time. It wasn't that complicated to me. It was pretty straightforward to me that he was going to give immunity to the only industry in America. Everybody else has to be accountable, but not the gun manufacturers. And we need to stand up and say, enough of that. We are not going to let it continue.
Let me turn to the tax policy for a second. Senator Sanders, you want to make public college free altogether, and you want to increase Social Security benefits. So you said that to do some of these things, you would impose a tax on top earners. How high would their rate go in the Sanders administration?
Let me put those proposals, and you're absolutely right. That is what I want to do. That is what has to happen if we're going to rebuild this crumbling middle class. In the last 30 years, there's been a massive redistribution of wealth, and I know that term gets my Republican friends nervous. The problem is this redistribution has gone in the wrong direction. Trillions of dollars have gone to the middle class and working families, to the top 0.1% who have doubled the percentage of wealth that they now own. Yes, I do believe that we must end corporate loopholes that such major corporations year after year pay virtually zero in federal income tax on Wall Street speculation. We bail out Wall Street, it's their turn to bail out the middle class. Help our kids be able to get college tuition free, so we pay for this by demanding that the wealthiest people and the largest corporations who have gotten away with murder for years pay their fair share.
Dr. Carson, what, as President of the United States, would you do to change our taxation system?
Well, thank you. I wasn't sure I was going to get to talk again. We need to significantly change the taxation system, and the one that I've advocated is based on tithing, because I think God is a pretty fair guy. And he said, if you give me a tithe, it doesn't matter how much you make. If you make a bumper crop, you don't owe me triple tithes. And if you had no crops, you don't owe me no tithes. There must be something inherently fair about that. That's why I have advocated a proportional tax system. You make $10 billion, you pay $1 billion. You make $10, you pay $1. And everybody gets treated the same way. You get rid of the loopholes and all the deductions.
Governor Kasich, the math and the math say that you can only become the nominee if there is a contested convention. If that happens and Donald Trump has the most delegates, why shouldn't the candidate with the most delegates, even if it's not the majority of delegates, be the nominee?
Well, first of all, it's not, the math doesn't tell the full story in politics. The great thing about politics, the reason why we watch it, is because what's true today is not necessarily true tomorrow. Look, when you went to school, okay, if you got an 86, you got an 8. Just because everybody else got an 84 doesn't mean you got an A. So you just got to win enough delegates to be the nominee. And frankly, I don't know if we're going to get a convention like that, but if we do, I was at one in 1976 as a wee lad and supported Ronald Reagan and actually worked directly with him. He tried valiantly, he lost, Gerald Ford won, the party was united. Gerald Ford served the country great by pardoning Richard Nixon. He lost the election probably because of that, but he put America first, and we were healed as a party. So, look, you have to earn the delegates in order to be picked, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's, because we still have about half the delegates to be selected. So that was going to be very interesting thing to see how it all works out as we move forward over the next couple of weeks.
Senator, thank you. Candidates, it's now time for your closing statements. Senator Paul, we'll start with you.
I'm a different kind of Republican. I've introduced a 5-year balanced budget. I've introduced the largest tax cut in our history. I stood on the Senate floor for 10.5 hours to defend your right to be left alone. I've also been in Chicago, I've been in Detroit, I've been in Ferguson, because I want our party to be bigger, to be better, be bolder. I'm also the only one who leads Hillary Clinton in 5 states that were all won by President Obama. I'm a different kind of Republican.
Governor Kasich, your closing statement.
Look, my father was a mailman. His father was a coal miner. I've always had a sort of an underdog mentality in things, but I've never stooped so low as to become negative. I'm going to spend my time building bridges so we can grow the economy. I'm running a positive campaign. If I can't win by being fundamentally positive, what's the point in winning? We're all Americans. Let's stop this fighting. Me and my family, we're moving across this country, and just you wait. There's so much going to happen. If you don't have a seatbelt, go get one. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Senator Rubio, your closing statement.
Let me begin by saying this. I'm not new to the political process. I was the Speaker of the third most largest and most diverse state in the nation, well before I even got into the Senate. I would also like to add that this election cannot be a resume competition. If it's a resume competition, Hillary Clinton's going to be our next president, because she's been in the office and in government longer than any of us or anybody else running here tonight. Here's what this election had better be about. This election had better be about the future, not the past. It better be about the issues our nation and the world is facing today, not simply the issues we once faced. This country is facing an economy that has been radically transformed. You know, the largest retailer in the country, Amazon, it doesn't have a single store. In these changes, they've been disruptive. They've been ruining our economy. The jobs that once sustained our middle class, they either don't pay enough, or they're gone. And we need someone that understands that as our nominee. If I'm our nominee, how is Hillary Clinton going to lecture me about living paycheck to paycheck? I was raised paycheck to paycheck. If I'm our nominee, we will be the party of the future.
Dr. Carson.
In the course of this debate, 5 people have died from drug-related deaths. $100 billion has been added to our national debt. 200 babies have been killed by abortionists, and 2 veterans have taken their lives out of despair. This is a narrative that we can change. Not we the Democrats, not we the Republicans, but we the people of America. Because there's something special about this nation, and we must embrace it. We must embrace it and be proud of it, and never give it up for the sake of political correctness.
Senator Cruz.
If I'm elected president, on the first day, I will instruct the Department of Justice to open an investigation on Planned Parenthood and to prosecute any criminal violations. I will instruct every federal agency that prosecution of religious liberty ends today. I will rip to shreds the Iranian catastrophic Iran nuclear deal. We will repeal Obamacare, abolish the IRS, secure the border, and bring back jobs.
Mr. Trump.
Nobody knows politicians better than I do. They're all talk. There's no action. Nothing gets done. I've watched them for years. Take a look at what's happening in our country. All of the things that I've talked about, whether it's trade, whether it's building up our depleted military, whether it's taking care of our vets, whether it's getting rid of Common Core, which is a disaster. We're knocking out Obamacare and coming up with something so much better. I will get it done. Politicians will never, ever get it done. And we'll make America great again. Thank you.
Senator Sanders.
Is it acceptable that in America, the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? Is it acceptable that while the average American works longer hours for lower wages, 58% of all new income is going to the top 1%? Is it acceptable that Wall Street and billionaires are spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to buy elections? That democracy, or is that oligarchy? Is it right that in the greatest, wealthiest country in the history of the world, our young people can't even afford to go to college or leave school so deeply in debt? In the wealthiest country in the history of the world, if we stand up and fight back, we can do a lot better. That is why I'm running for president.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, I'm running for president to do my very best to knock down every barrier that stands in the way of America realizing its potential and every American having the chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of economic barriers. That's why I've laid out plans for more good jobs with rising incomes. We have barriers that stand in the way of quality health care. That's why I build on the Affordable Care Act. We have barriers to education. That's why I want to start early and provide debt-free tuition and deal with student debt so it is no longer the burden that weighs down so many young Americans. And I do want to take on the barriers of systemic racism. I may not have experienced them, but I see the results every single day. I don't intend to get into the gutter with whoever they nominate, but instead lift our sights to set big goals and make it clear that America's best days can and are ahead of us.
Gentlemen, and Secretary Clinton, thank you.
And thank you for everyone for coming down. If you would like to
Come up and take the nominees' hands and get their autograph on your program, you're welcome to do that. Thank you.